Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Megan Wright. I am a DJ and radio personality at Hot 97 and a reporter right here at Fox 5. Now, it's 2016, which means it is the 20th year anniversary of Jay-Z's debut album and my favorite album, Reasonable Doubt. So I wanted to do something special on it. Now, a lot of the stuff that I got, all the amazing material, wasn't able to make it to TV, so I felt like, let's do a director's cut. Here we go. We're counting down some of the top 10 craziest, memorable moments and things that I learned. Here we go. Legendary DJ, producer, Ski Beats, produced 4 tracks on Reasonable Doubt, Feeling It, Dead Presidents, Politics as Usual, and my favorite song, 22 Twos. Now, could you believe he didn't like the beat, and he didn't even tell Jay-Z?
He became famous in New York City at this place called Mad Wednesdays. And Maria Davis, she was the host. That's why we got Maria on the actual song. And she used to host that, and he used to kill that song every time he went to Mad Wednesdays, and he just decided to make a song out of it. I'm just mad he chose that beat, because that's like, I hate that beat.
You hate the beat?
To this day, that's like,
really?
That's not my favorite beat. Like, I would have gave him something totally different. I'm surprised he even chose that beat for that, but people like it.
The media made that a way more out there than what it really was. You know, a lot of us were still getting along with our West Coast homies and vice versa during all that stuff. But, you know, he said the line, too much West Coast dick licking, you know, and stuff like that. And no one was even man enough to say that on a record. And Jay said it with pride back at that time, where he was a soldier for the way people viewed the state of hip hop and how everybody in New York should have be proud of the way we sound and how it's done.
So if 22 Twos wasn't your favorite beat, which is still crazy to me, that's one of my favorite songs.
22 Twos?
Yes.
Like I say, people like it. I'm just, you know, I'm a producer. I'm like, you know, certain things I like, certain things I don't. You know?
Which one is, what has been your favorite?
Politics as Usual, Dead Presidents, you know what I mean? Feeling It, you know? Those are like so much better than 22 Twos. Feeling It was actually my song. Me and my man BIGGIE'S from Camp Low. I was working on the album. I got Swayed on it. I got my homegirl from Danville, VA. Her name is Mecca. She sung the chorus. And I was excited. I recorded the song. I went to Dave's crib, like, yo, check out my song, kid. Played it for him, and Jay was there. And Jay was like, you know I need that song, right? I'm like, what? They broke me off, though. You know, broke me off. I gave him the song, and he actually kept the hook. And and the flow, he kept the flow. Like, I was rhyming in that same flow. And he said, yo, I'm gonna keep the flow and I'm gonna keep the hook. I'm like, bet. And you know, he obviously rocked it way iller than I did, but it was dope. It's my song. It was perfect. You know, it felt right. You know, I wouldn't change anything. The only thing I would change is the beat for 22, just the beat for 22 Twos. If I could go back, I would change that beat, I promise you.
Does he know that?
No.
DJ Clark Kent, he had so many gems, not just a DJ, but a producer as well. And he kind of, you know, gave me the layout for how these songs were put together and how they ended up making the album. When they were doing songs with Jay-Z, they didn't, you know, start to do it with the thought of Reasonable Doubt in mind. They were just trying to get music on them. And, you know, when you think of all the 14 songs, it seems like they all fit perfectly. But, you know, he explained to me that certain songs made the album, certain ones didn't, just depending on what was going on at the moment, timing, mastering, and things like that. Now, a certain song in particular, CASHMERE Thoughts, it was actually intended to be a part of a group album, not just Jay-Z's.
The things that were happening before we actually called ourselves making this album were what happened on the album. So when you hear the album, it's just what was happening. So yeah, CASHMERE Thoughts wasn't supposed to be just me and Jay talking back and forth on a record. It was supposed to be me, Jay, Sauce, and Jazz, because in the beginning, that song was supposed to be about 3 pimps talking pimp talk. It's for an album that was supposed to be them 3 making an album talking pimp talk. There was so many ideas that idea got, there was only 1 verse, he added another verse, all of a sudden it's on Reasonable Doubt. It just happened that way.
So when we look at Jay-Z now, and then we even sit back and look at, you know, his 20-year plus career, it's hard to imagine a time when nobody believed in him except the, select few people around him, and nobody wanted to sign him. Like, I can't even, think that was even really a thing. But when I sat down, and I interviewed all these people and all these people that were involved in the album, they're like, yo, it was real. Nobody wanted to sign him. They shopped him around. But why is that?
Every label, period, said no to me, to Dame, to us. I shot the album, I shot Jay-Z for a year or two. I quit my job because they wouldn't let me sign Jay-Z. And I'm looking at them like, y'all are so stupid. Now here's the worst part. Later on, everybody's like, God, I can't believe I sat with you, remember? Yeah, I know. Yeah. They all feel like unbelievably stupid about it because there's so many, you know what I mean? Because at that time, the A&R game was super small, so every A&R knew every A&R, and you were cool. In my mind, I'm like, here, Sylvia. And she was just like, And I was like, what? So I had to go shop it. I didn't want to walk away from where I was at to go take it somewhere else so that guy could get the credit. But it had to happen. I had to let everybody see what we were talking about. And I think his subject matter and the complexity of the things he was saying were so above any A&R guy's head that they didn't get it. I mean, I talk Jules spit diamonds, I'm all cherry like a hymen when I'm rhyming remarkable timing. They're still like, what the hell is he talking about? And I'm saying, he's saying he talked Jules spits diamond, he's all cherry like a hymen when he's rhyming with remarkable timing. What did you miss?
A nerd's not going to empower somebody cool because then they're going to get all their girls taken. They wasn't trying to let us in the business because we were arrogant, we were cooler than everybody. Everyone was pretending to be something that we actually were. And we had the swag with it, so it wasn't like someone was going to just give us the keys to the throne. They was going to rock with us when they had no choice. So it made me have to take it. You know what I'm saying? I had to do it myself, and I became that guy because, my thing as a manager, as an administrative, was that my artists should be able to just be surrounded by whatever makes them productive, what makes them comfortable. They're artists. What they, that's what an artist does. They don't do anything they don't want to do. They communicate through their music. So you have to keep them in a place where they never have to feel any of the things that an administrative has to feel. So as an administrative, I was the bad cop. I went to war. When the door closed, I didn't care about nerds not closing the door. I'm knocking that down, and I did. And that's what it was, really. And I don't know, that's what that time was like.
What I noticed from them is just, the attitude of just not taking no for an answer. If they couldn't get through this way, they found another way to get through it. You know what I'm saying? They always found a way to figure things out. Like, I remember them being on John Street, and Dame was like, yo, we started our own clothing line. I'm telling you, we started our own clothing line. And I look in the back room, it's two old ladies on sewing machines making clothes. And I'm like, man, and what, a year later, Rockaware. You know what I'm saying? Crazy. Like, they always had a vision. They always just found a way to just, see it through.
But everybody doesn't believe. Like I said, with Jay, Dame, and Biggs, to me, it was about the Rockefeller movement. It was never about one particular thing. And, we have so much history. I mean, they were trying to get the record played on the radio. And Irv Gotti says to them, I got the best promo guy in the game. You got to come, and you got to meet him. And so Jay, Dame, and Biggs show up into my office and say, yo, you get this record played. I said, yo, let's talk about being an artist. Let's talk about you guys coming with us at Def Jam. And Jay said, signed to a label? No, we Rockefeller. And it was that moment I understood the dynamic of, he had been through trying to be with somebody else before, and he really wanted to be his own artist, his own entity with a bunch of great people around him, and that was a defining moment for us in that room. I still helped him with the record, and actually Ain't No went on the Nutty Professor soundtrack because we had Foxy at that particular time, and the rest is history.
When I listen to music, I listen as a DJ, and I also listen firstly as a fan, and as a fan of hip hop. And sometimes I wonder, like, are these real songs? Did this stuff really happen? Are they rapping about something else, or somebody else? Is it made up? But track 14, Regrets, it was a real thing. when I interviewed, you know, a lot of these people that were involved in the album, you know, they said that that's really how they felt. So after I did these interviews, I went back and I listened to it again, and I had a whole new appreciation and understanding and respect for their truths. And what I found most interesting is that some of them still have regrets today.
The album was done. I think Regrets was probably one of the last ones that was done, and which is one of my favorites. I love Regrets, and just the emotion. It sounds like the closer of the album to wrap it up.
Regrets is amazing because if you were with us, that song almost is the Please Understand Us. Please Understand Us. That's the Please Understand Us record. And so it's extremely important to everybody who worked on the album, because you could not imagine that happening after everything else that happened on the album. You couldn't imagine, damn, we really do feel a ways about what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? So know that we just don't want to be out here doing it. It's just that this is a means to an end. And now we're at the end. So we're going to let you know there's a means to an end. And if this works out, we'll be out of that.
Music was just a stepping stone for all the other things that we wanted to do. You got to remember, Jay was saying he was quitting. That was going to be his one and only album, which I guess was a gimmick. Because it's like 20 years later, he's still making albums. You know what I'm saying? But it's not through Rockefeller. But, you know, like I said, we didn't want to just do one thing. So we were always concentrating on the next lick. It was like this was one step. So it wasn't in that moment the biggest thing. We just knew it was going to be cool and always be the cool. But we were always trying to figure out how to make, you know, me, I wanted to always be able to get in the club when he wasn't around. So I was trying to build more of an empire in that moment. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to, at that time, we were trying to sign The Firm. I was trying to sign like Nas and that crew. And Steve Stout Snake, that's for that. You know what I'm saying? And then we signed Clue. Like in that moment, that was just the door opener for every other thing we wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? So that he could retire and that we could sustain on our own. You know what I'm saying? It was the platform and the commercial for a lifestyle that was authentic. But in hindsight, it wasn't the best thing to me to do for culture, because it meant make money no matter how much you hurt your culture. You know what I'm saying? And it was like our ideals weren't what I would want my ideals to be now as a 45-year-old. But as an irresponsible 20, someone in your 20s, you know, I was happy about what we did. But as an adult, I wouldn't do it exactly like that, because I know the karmic repercussions of it. It can't last.
That's how she got paid.
Oh, yes, with the
nickels. It was freaking ridiculous. $5 bills. It was so gutter.
Wait, what?
We was getting money. You got money however you got money. However it came is how you paid. It was like, yeah, it was like, here. Damn near every producer on that album got paid in cash. Only like hustlers really understand that talk. It's shoebox money. Yeah. You gotta get paid. And she was super new, but she was the homie.
But she was popping then, right?
Yeah, but you have to understand, when you're in New York and somebody's popping, it's not the same as when somebody's popping from LA and you're in New York. You're in New York, you damn near know everybody who's popping if you're in the game. So she's not like above anything. She's still our homie. You get it? So like, people from the outside will look at Jay and be like, oh my God. I can't look at him like that. I look at what he's done like that, but he's still Jay to me. He's still the guy I met in Marcy Projects. You know what I'm saying? Bleak is still my little man from Marcy Projects. And I love Bleak, but he's been successful. He's done some things, but he's still the guy I met on the bench and we made him rhyme for 4 hours. Like, keep rhyming, keep rhyming, keep rhyming, until we said, okay, you can be on the record. Like, he had to keep rhyming. I know he hated us. I know to this day, that's probably still one of the stories that sticks out in Bleak's mind the most. I kept going like an asshole. Go ahead, keep going. Keep going. Yeah, that's cool, keep going. Keep going. Because the making of these records was so important that you really had to be there. So you gotta be that good to get there. Because this guy is on another planet. So if you want to rhyme on this record, you better be that. I mean, listen to Bleak on the record. He sounds like the little guy on the block that you gave the money, that really wanted to be just like you. He sounds like it. You can see it. So when he's saying what he's saying, it's because we believed you were the little guy on the block that wanted to be just like the big homie, or who everybody calls the big homie.
When I came up with this idea to do this project, I knew it was going to be difficult because I was going to do a piece on Reasonable Doubt 20 years later, and I didn't know personally anybody that had anything to do with the album. So I literally had to go out and find everybody and find people that know somebody. Now, one of the hardest people that it was to get in contact with was Damon Dash. Whether it was trying to find someone who could connect me, I wanted to make sure it was the right person. So I was like, I gotta make a few phone calls. I called my boy DJ Spazzo, who's a DJ with me at Hot 97. He's from Harlem. And I said, yo, I really want to interview Damon Dash, for my Reasonable Doubt project. Do you know anybody that could link me with him? He said, yeah, I think I know somebody. So he called Smoke Dizza for me, and Smoke Dizza got me his email address. And so I started emailing him. And I remember I just kept checking my phone to see if he was like hitting me back. And finally he hit me back. And I'm like, wait a second. I really have to confirm that this is him because I really want to hook up this interview. So I started to think, like, who else could I talk to that was close enough with Damon to make sure that this is really a thing? So I called Cameron. And I said, look, man, like, all I need you to do is, give him a call for me and see if he's really talking to me so I can confirm whether or not he really wants to do this interview. So hung up with Cameron, called him, he called me back and he said, yo, yeah, you're really talking to him. So we went back and forth via email and he let me know, he was like, I live out in Malibu, I'll do the interview. And I was like, yo, he's really gonna do the interview. And literally up until the point that I got to his house, I did not believe that he was going to do this interview. And I'm not really sure why. I think it's just because, as somebody who wasn't around during that time, I sit and I read a lot of things and I see a lot of things and I see, what everybody has to say about this individual. I watch backstage, just like everyone else. And I'm like, either one of two things are going to happen. I'm going to get there and he's not going to show up, or maybe I'm going to get there and he's going to curse me out. I'm going to ask the wrong thing. I don't know. But I was like, it's worth a shot. I went out to Malibu. I interviewed him. I showed up to his house and I was surprised that he was the complete opposite of what I thought that he was gonna be, and in a good way. He was super nice, he was super cool. His family was great. He really answered my questions, but didn't, take shots at anybody the way that I thought or assumed that he was going to. And he really gave me a very, very, what I thought was one of the most interesting perspectives because, he spoke on the side of just him and how he felt and his truths. And, speaking of the fact that, 20 years later, he said that Reasonable Doubt is his midlife crisis. And it's way too early to be having these conversations because he doesn't feel like he's, at that age to be having these conversations. And anything that he kind of does from now or even after that point has to be Reasonable Doubt or equivalent. And that's a hard thing to get to. So I found it, I was pleasantly surprised that the way the interview went and that he was a lot nicer than I thought he was going to be. If you were to think of greatest collab records of all time, on the top of everyone's list, it's got to be Biggie, Jay-Z, Brooklyn's Finest. But can you believe that record almost never made it on the album? Actually, it almost never happened at all.
Biggie wanted the record. He heard it by accident and wanted the record the same day I was going to record it on Jay. So I says, yo, come to the studio and wait downstairs and I'll try to get you on the song. Jay does the whole record. It's done. Except I got to figure out a hook. And we're going to scratch something. We figured it out. I'm going to scratch some stuff and that's it. It's going to be done. And then I go, hey, well, Big, you should let him on the record. Didn't tell him he heard it. I was just like, you should let him on the record. And everybody's going, Nah, fuck that, we don't know Puff, part of my language. Yo, but that was the answer, we don't know Puff. We ain't giving Puff no money, and we don't know Big. And I'm going, well, you know, I know him. Yeah, I DJ for him. I'm on the road with him every day. And then I brought him up, they met. Jay goes in the studio, in the booth, and in 20 minutes changes everything and leaves the spaces and goes, you ready? Big is blown away. He's like, oh, no, I'm not ready for that. You're gonna have to give me that, I'll have to figure it out. But the reason there was an issue with how he was gonna rhyme to it is because the beat is made in 5-bar segments instead of 2 bars, 4 bars, 6 or 8. It's made in 5-bar segments, so you have to have a pickup line. But Jay left all the pickup lines. So it was like, oh, what do I do here? And it took him a while to figure it out. Once he figured it out, they did it, and then it was like, okay, we gotta go in the studio and finish it because we're mastering the next day. So I'm like, okay, cool. We all go to the studio, and nobody wants to come up with a hook. So they're going, yo, scratch something. So for hours, and I'm a pretty decent scratcher, I scratched everything, and nothing sounded good on the beat. Except when Old Dirty goes, Brooklyn, Brooklyn. So we left that, and then I was like, come on, you write a hook. And they left the studio and left me there. First Biggie leaves, he's going, yo, I'll be right back. He never comes back. Then Jay goes, yo, I'll be right back. And he never comes back. And the day starts going and going, and the night is going, and now I'm stuck. And I can't scratch anything else because nothing works. And I write the hook, I say the hook, I try to change the way my voice sounds. And I'm like, here, guys. And Dame was with me for the whole time. So at 8 o'clock, the record's finished, Dame goes to mastering. He believes it's good, but now they're all at mastering. And when it comes on, I get the, yo, it's dope, Clark. I was like,
Yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. Let's just get into it.
took Bleak 10 cheeseburgers to rhyme on the song. 10 cheeseburgers.
What do you mean?
We were sitting in the crib, waiting for him to get ready to say his rhymes on the song, and he was like, yo, I'm hungry. What you want? I want 10 singles from Wendy's. What? 10 Jay goes, brings a 10. I want 10 singles from Wendy's. What? Jay goes back and brings him 10 single cheeseburgers, and one, it sounded retarded. He's like at 5, and you could see him slowing down. And we were like, you're gonna eat all that shit. You're gonna eat all of that shit. You asked for 10 singles from Wendy's, you're gonna eat all of that shit before you go on that mic. How dare you ask for 10 single cheeseburgers? That's what he wanted. I'm like, yo, ask for like 2 doubles or something. Don't say you want 10 singles, and then you get 10 singles and you're eating them. But like, no, you gotta finish them. You made us spend money on frickin' cheeseburgers from Wendy's. But he did, and then he went in the booth, and you get what you got. Come on, man, look at that record. There's lots of records that get made, you know what I'm saying? But when you look back now, it might sound stupid that he wanted 10 cheeseburgers. It might sound even more stupid that I had him rhyming for 4 hours. But listen to the record. So if that's what it took to get that record, it was absolutely what was supposed to happen. I'm not supposed to be on Brooklyn's Finest, but if that's what it took to get Brooklyn's Finest, all right, I challenge somebody to show me a collab record that's better than Brooklyn's Finest. Not because I made it, because when I look from the outside, that's the 2 best MCs ever trading verses back and forth on a record, on a beat that nobody would have made, with a hook that talks to our town. Brooklyn's Finest is Clark, Jay, and Big. It's not just Clark and, it's not just Jay and Big. Like, it's us 3. We are Brooklyn's Finest. You don't get that by accident. It's not an accident. You know what I'm saying? It was supposed to be that way. So no matter how the story goes, and no matter how weird it might seem, or the fact that they didn't even talk, they just laughed when they met each other, it was supposed to be that way.
So here's the big question. When you're making a classic album, do you realize at the time that you're making it that it's classic? You know, we're talking 20 years later after Reasonable Doubt. Like, did all of these people involved know that this album was going to be what it is today?
Do you think Reasonable Doubt is Jay-Z's best album?
I believe every great artist, 99% of them that we love, their first album is usually their best album because it took their whole life to make it. I think that's a hard question to ask. I think it's the best because it's his first. I think lyrically he hasn't been able to go there because it was so far above everybody's heads that people missed 75% of what he was saying. There's people now who will listen to his album and still be like, what the hell is he talking about? So unless you were a part of it and you were in it and you understood the streets that way, you missed it. So I think there's other albums where he let people understand differently that might give you the idea that they're better. Like the Black album is stellar. Hard Knock Life is stellar. American Gangster is like, what the hell were you doing? Like crazy, you know what I'm saying? So the blueprint might be the closest to Reasonable Doubt because of the feeling. But Reasonable Doubt, I probably would have to say it's the best because if it didn't get made, there would be no other albums. Because that was it. If it didn't work out right then and there, we were gonna walk away. Plus, we were gonna walk away anyway. It's just that it worked too well, so then the pressure was on. It was like, so what are we gonna do? Now you gotta do more records. Because you made your album's too good. It's too good. I know the Source magazine has to be looking at themselves going, how the hell didn't we get at 5 mics? It's a 6 mic album. Like, America's Most Wanted should have got 6 mics. Snoop's first album should have got 6 mics. Tribe Called Quest, 6 mics. Nas, 6 mics. Forget 5 mics. These are albums that are above the standard of what it should be like. But he got 4 mics? I'm saying, I bet you apologizing now. I bet every A&R man that I showed that album to, I showed Jay-Z to, in their minds, they're probably still kicking their own ass.
It's not the end. That's what anniversaries and you know, that's what it feels like. Like, you know, that's
You think so?
Sometimes.
I don't think so with this though. I don't think so.
it's me.
Sometimes I do with certain people, but with this, it doesn't seem like it.
You gotta remember, it's me.
Yeah.
I have an expectation in myself. So no matter what, I'ma always want what I did 20 years ago. Right now, what I'm doing now got to be bigger than what I did 20 years ago.
Right.
That's the expectation that I started with. I can't be like, this the best thing I ever did in the last 20 years. You know, I wanted to go do fashion, so I had to go do it, but I had to do it. So there'll be a 20-year anniversary in about 5 years for Rockwear and Rachel Roy, and then, you know, Lee Daniels' anniversary for the first movie, all of those different. I want to keep having those kind of anniversaries, but I don't even look at them like that. You know what I'm saying? I want them to happen when I'm like 50. It's a midlife crisis. That's my Reasonable Doubt is my midlife crisis right now for the expectations, but it doesn't take away or demean any of the greatness or the importance of it. You know, it's just everything I do has to be Reasonable Doubt level. Reasonable Doubt is the equivalent of vinyl. It's the best. So I like to make the best. The people's first tend to be their best. So I did Currency's first album, and I did, you know, Black Rock. Like I did my Steve Jobs. I took 10 years to run around the world and make other kinds of Reasonable Doubts. That's what I wanted to do. So 20 years later, there might be a anniversary for all the things and projects, a Black Rock anniversary or something like that, where we took it to a different level. It was something that can't be emulated. There'll never be another Reasonable Doubt because you'd have to live that life, and that life will never exist again. But it's as authentic as it can get. It's just, and it's the thing that we still own together. You know what I'm saying? So it's that vinyl. I just want everything vinyl.
Do you think that was his best album?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah. I think it was the most honest album. I think it was at when Rockefeller was at, where we were all on the same sheet of paper, where we all were about making money for each other, where we were all celebrating all our victories. So he was a spokesperson for us at that time, and that was honest in that moment. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so when you listen to it and you hear it, like I still listen to Reasonable Doubt because I just love what it represents in that moment. The thing about making music, like for 20 years straight, is the music reflects what you were doing in that moment, even when you listen to music. But every time I make a record, it brings back the memories of everything I was doing while we were making the record, the actual process of the record, how cool it was, you know what I'm saying? And that was like, we've done so many records since then, so it's cool to be able to reflect and to think about everything. But again, it's like, because we're not all together, the celebration isn't so crazy for me because I'm in a whole nother world. You know what I'm saying? Like, those people aren't around me no more, not because I don't want them, because I've just evolved to do other things. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I had to run around the world for 10 years. That's what I wanted to do. I was trying to understand the future, the millennial generation. And back then, I didn't know they were millennials. You know what I'm saying? But I'm happy that we did it. I love the foundation we laid. I love the lifestyle that is provided for me, not because of the money it generates, just because of the credibility that it gives you. It means that someone has to listen to you when you say, I made reasonable doubt. Okay, I got to give you a second look. If I even want to be so kind as to talk to you about it. Like, it could also make you really snobby. I made reasonable doubt. I ain't got to talk to nobody. There's not another piece of history I have to make.
I mean, when we first recorded it, I knew that the album was really special. Classic didn't hit me probably to the second or third album. You know, and as we went back and still breaking down the lyrics and saying, man, he said this and that, like, you know, catching things 2 and 3 years later is probably when I was like, this is going to be, you know, something that's going to last, you know, a lifetime.
There's certain ones, yeah, you just know, but for what Jay did with Reasonable Doubt, after I heard the entire body of work once he was done, I knew he had a classic on his hands, and he does. You know, that one's a classic. Even if you don't go past that, that one's classic. I have friends of mine that I just met that are younger kids that are like, man, no disrespect to his other albums, but this is the only one I care about. And when a younger kid says that, that means something too, because they weren't even really around to even go outside and hang out in the clubs when that album was released. They were still, you know, in elementary or junior high, and they're saying, this is my guideline to greatness, is by studying an album like this.
The first time I heard Reasonable Doubt, I would say 96. And I was hanging with some older guys, actually. 96, I was 17, 18 years old. I was into Nas. And I was hanging with some guys, they're probably like 25, 27 at the time. And, you know, I was ranting and raving about how good Nas's album was. And they were like, what are you talking about? Like, listen, this is the only thing you should be listening to. Now, mind you, these guys were in the street. They were heavily in the street. They were like so far entrenched. And they were like, listen, this is what you should be listening to. Look at these guys. Look at this guy. He wears Versace. He has on Versace right now. They're drinking Cristal. And, you know, this is what you need to be aspiring to. You watching somebody who got on an army jacket. He waited to get on TV to wear an army jacket. And they were like instilling this level of like all hip hop, you know me, I'm like, man, lyrically Nas is like, you know, whatever. And they were instilling in me like this criteria of like hood opulence. And that was the criteria that like they lived by. And they were like, this is what you should be aspiring to. And that was the first time like I heard that I was actually with Pharrell, and they were sitting both of us down, like, listen, you guys are bugging, what are you talking about? You see this jacuzzi in here? We got this jacuzzi over here because of this. This is what we get money to. And that was the whole, that was my introduction to Reasonable Doubt.
This is hands down one of the craziest stories that I've ever heard. Like, I get into this moment when they start to reminisce over these Jay-Z and Biggie stories, and I start to think of what it must have been like back then. Now, to hear this one, like, it doesn't even need an introduction.
Think about this. I'm on a tour bus with Big for 5-6 months trying to tell him about Jay-Z. And he's going, yeah, he all right. Yeah, he all right. And in my mind, I'm going, dog, you nice. You should be able to hear this. And he's going, Clark, he all right. He good. I like him. And then Dead Presidents 2 comes out when we're on the road. And uncalls on them expensive-ass cell phone. And he's going, yo, do you hear this? He is saying it. Big, he's saying it. All right, I'm going to listen. And he listens and he's just like, yo, Clark, your man got it. I was like, dog, I've been telling you this for months. He was like, nah, but he got it. And I was like, yeah.
That's insanity.
Understand me. I used to be on the bus talking to him about how good he is, but how better my man is, and it would make him mad. Like, the second verse to Who Shot You is because of how much I rode on him about, telling you, man, he's the illest. My man's the illest. You good, Big. You know I think you good. You my man. I wouldn't be out here on the road with you, but this dude is that deal. He goes home, he's mad, goes in the studio, does the second verse that I Shot You. We go back to the airport the next morning to get back on the road, and he's got a big box, and they play the record, and he's going, I'm not the illest? I was like, wow. I was like, dog, that might be the hardest rhymes, but you're harder than him, you're not nicer than him. Like, that was the conversation. So whenever people ask me, I always say Jay-Z's the best MC I've ever heard, and Big's the best rapper I've ever heard.